Look, let's just start with a pretty brutal truth about the modern world. Just because a billionaire tech CEO or some A-list Hollywood actor is exceptionally famous, it really doesn't mean they're a genius at everything. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to decode one of the most dangerous, yet incredibly common, cognitive glitches in the human brain. It's essentially a trap, and it's designed to completely hijack your critical thinking. But the good news is, once you understand the actual mechanics behind it, you're never going to be fooled by borrowed fame again.
So why exactly do we trust famous people so much? Seriously, just think about your own daily habits for a second here. You see a brilliantly successful entrepreneur talking super confidently about foreign policy, or maybe your absolute favorite movie stars giving out highly specific medical advice, and naturally, you kind of just nod along, right? Why do we do this? Well, it's literally human nature to gravitate towards success. Evolutionarily speaking, our brains are just lazy. They're constantly looking for shortcuts to save cognitive energy. We just assume that, hey, if someone figured out how to make $1 billion or win an Oscar, they must have all of reality figured out. But blindly trusting that assumption, that introduces this really dangerous cognitive glitch we call the celebrity trap.
Okay, to fix this glitch, we first need to clearly define what's actually happening inside our heads. In the world of logic, this is known as an appeal to authority. It simply means relying on someone's position, their wealth, or their expertise to establish that a claim is true. Now, let's be totally fair for a second. In ordinary, everyday reasoning, we absolutely should rely on experts. I mean, if a structural engineer tells you a bridge is unsafe, you definitely listen to them. But here is exactly where the trap springs. Advertisers, influencers, and really clever debaters will weaponize this completely normal instinct, and they twist it to bypass your logic entirely.
And this logical twist relies on something psychologists call the halo effect. Think about it like this. Imagine you've got a top-tier neurosurgeon giving you advice on an upcoming brain surgery. That is a perfectly valid authority. If you need a tumor removed, you don't call your plumber, right? You ask the neurosurgeon. But now, imagine that exact same neurosurgeon starts giving you aggressive, highly speculative stock market advice. Suddenly, that is invalid authority. The halo effect happens when authority is basically smuggled from one legitimate domain into a completely unrelated one. Our brains just lazily trick us into thinking that because someone is highly skilled in one specific area, they must possess this godlike wisdom about literally everything else. Let's get a little personal for a second. I want to ask you a direct, maybe slightly embarrassing question. Come on, admit it. Have you ever bought a specific brand of coffee, or maybe caught yourself nodding along to a wild political hot take entirely because the guy who plays a superhero in the movies told you to? Hey, it's okay. We all fall for the Hollywood halo sometimes. But we have to realize that when we allow the cool factor of a celebrity to dictate our real-world choices, we're making ourselves incredibly easy to manipulate. And that brings us to the core danger here: outsourcing your intellect. When someone drops a famous name to support their point, they are essentially handing your brain permission to just turn off and stop thinking. Let's be real, evaluating actual data is hard work. Name dropping? That is incredibly easy. When you accept a celebrity's credentials instead of an actual argument, you are literally handing over the keys to your intellect, and you're choosing status worship over critical thought.
But here's the kicker. The crucial thing to remember is that even legitimate, highly credentialed experts can be wildly, catastrophically incorrect when they step outside their field. In fact, there's a documented historical phenomenon known as Nobel disease. It's a very real thing where brilliant, historically significant scientists, we're talking people who have literally won the Nobel Prize, suddenly start endorsing bizarre, unscientific conspiracy theories later in life. History is just littered with renowned leaders and celebrated thinkers who believed absolute nonsense. Being an authority figure simply doesn't grant you a magical immunity shield against bad logic.
Which leads us to a pretty unavoidable question. Think about it. If a literal Nobel laureate can completely lose their grip on reality, why on earth are we trusting a reality TV star's opinion on macroeconomics? It makes no sense. If you stop evaluating the data and just start evaluating the status of the person speaking, people are going to spot that weakness. They'll realize that you respect status way more than facts, and they'll win arguments against you simply by quoting a longer list of famous people rather than actually proving their point.
So how do we fix this? How do we decouple the claim from the person making it so that you never fall for the celebrity trap again? Well, you deploy what we call the credentials check framework. Think of this as a mental filter. It allows you to instantly separate genuine earned expertise from borrowed fame, even in the heat of a super fast-paced conversation.
This framework breaks down into 3 simple steps: check specificity, demand evidence, and the preliminary demotion. It's your tactical checklist to dismantle these faulty appeals to authority in real time. Let's jump in and see exactly how to execute each one.
All right, step 1, check specificity. The very next time someone tries to win a point by citing a famous authority, I want you to smoothly stop them and force them to prove the relevance. You can literally just say, hey, I know they're a brilliant actor or a fantastic CEO, but what specific peer-reviewed expertise do they have in this exact topic? You have to make sure they are actually picking the right expert for the specific claim being made. Doing this instantly punctures that halo effect we talked about.
Once you've checked their specificity, you move seamlessly right into step 2, demand the evidence. You have to remind yourself, and honestly whoever you're talking to, that because even the smartest experts can suffer from Nobel disease, you absolutely must look at the underlying evidence. Never ever accept authority as absolute proof. The name on the cover of the research paper doesn't matter one single bit if the data inside that paper is totally flawed.
And that brings us to the final and honestly most powerful tactic. Step 3, the preliminary demotion. Let's say someone actually cites a perfectly valid expert. Awesome, but you still need to verbally demote that citation. State very clearly that an expert's opinion is only preliminary evidence for a claim. It's just the starting point, it is not the finish line. Acknowledge their expert, sure, but then immediately ask to see the actual data that expert used to reach their conclusion.
Seriously, if you take literally nothing else away from this explainer, keep this one phrase locked in your back pocket. I don't care who said it, I care what they can prove. This is your ultimate psychological cheat code. The very next time you're faced with a celebrity name dropper, just calmly look at them and deliver this line. It immediately resets the entire conversation. Because at the end of the day, a genuine discussion is always about uncovering the truth, not just comparing the resumes of the people who happen to agree with you.
So the next time you find yourself swaying to the rhythm of a super famous voice, just hit pause and ask this question. Are you capable of defending this point yourself, or do you need to hide behind a famous name? Whenever someone tries to use the celebrity trap to bypass your logic, demand the undeniable truth over a shiny resume. Force the data into the light. Stay sharp, always trust the evidence, and never let fame blind your logic.